When you're trying to choose a format for a solution, sometimes you want to use fractions, sometimes you want to use decimals, and how do you know which one to use? Give examples when a rounded decimal solution is better than its precise fractional answer, and when fractions are better to use than decimals. So really that's thinking about what would you like to use for your results. When you're asked specifically to round to the nearest hundredth or to round to the 3 decimal places, then obviously you want to use decimals instead of fractions. When your fraction is like really large, like you have it's 17 over 320, you probably want to convert that to a decimal because that's going to be easier for people to understand, a 0.03 instead of 17 over 329, whatever I said before. So we like that when it's more, when the numbers are really weird. We like to use fractions when we're going to use the number later in calculations, because using the fraction means you don't have any rounding that's going to change your value slightly, and so your answer is going to be more precise. That's always good. If you're looking at percents, you generally are going to convert them, because we don't usually say 22⅓%. We usually just say 22.3%, something like that. Another way for you to tell is if your problem starts with mixed numbers, then your answer should be written probably as mixed numbers. If your problem starts with decimal values, your answer should be decimal values. We have another way of showing numbers, and that's called scientific notation. And you may have seen this before. Here are some very large numbers that we're multiplying, and here are some scientific notation numbers that are being multiplied. And we can convert each of these into scientific notation. And we can also, when we use our calculator, sometimes our calculator converts them for us. And so it's really smart if we know how to interpret those numbers that come off our calculator. So scientific notation has this format. There's some number between 1 and just under 10, and it's multiplied by 10 raised to some power. And if the power is negative or positive, this means tiny, a tiny number. And if it's positive, it means a giant number. Here's an example. Let's try this on our calculator. 600, 123 times 900. And when I push enter, it changed it to scientific notation for me. And if my problem is using numbers like this and I write my answer as 5.4, my calculator shows a teeny little times 10 to the, and then it shows an 11. So my calculator is really friendly for scientific notation because it shows the whole thing. If I do this on my other calculator, let me try it. 600 times 900. It's not as friendly, and it shows it as 5.4 and then the exponent of 11. So it's not even telling me that this is scientific notation. It just does a weird little exponent to the right. It's the same thing, obviously, because we did it both ways, but you need to figure out what your calculator is showing when you do a calculation like this. If it shows it like this, like my first calculator did, muy bueno. But if it doesn't, then you have to put in that times 10 to the and show it as a scientific notation number. Now, if I wanted to write this answer as a regular decimal number, then what this is telling me is that I have to go 11 places, and I need to, because it's a positive number on my exponent, that means I have to make this into a giant number. So it's 5.4 right now, and I need to move my decimal 11 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and put my decimal point there and fill in all the blanks with zeros. I'm sure you remember doing this at some point in your career. The big thing is to, let's see if I can count up. Okay, so it's going to be 540 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's 1,540,000,000,000, I think. It's a large number. So if I needed to write it out, remember, start where the decimal place is and move it, in this case, 11 places, and I need to make it a big number, so I move it to the right. And then that makes this is my ending number right here. Okay, I could leave it in scientific notation if that's okay, or if that's requested, then it would be in this form, but if not, I would need to convert it into this form. Let's try this one on the calculator. I see how many zeros are on there. 2, 4, 5 zeros. And then 2, 1, 5, 7, 8 times 0.1, 2, 3 zeros, and then 2, 5, 8, 9. And I'm getting another scientific notation number. Big surprise. And this one comes out to 5.5865442 times 10 to the -10. Now this one has a negative exponent, and that means that it is a tiny number because the exponent is negative, which means from where my decimal point is, if I move it to the right, I'm going to make a big number. I need to move it to the left. So I'll leave some space to the left. So 5.5865442, and I'm going to need to go 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Put my decimal there. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Put my decimal there. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So I should have 9 zeros. If you want to be nice to Mrs. Brown, put some spaces in there. And there we go. This is the decimal equivalent in standard form, and this is the result in scientific notation. And remember, you need to put in that times 10 if it's not showing. If you just get that -10 for the exponent, you need to put in the times 10 if you want to write it as scientific notation. Otherwise, it's not appropriate. All right, we have some operations to do using scientific notation, and that brings me to a little bit of calculator juggling to show you how to do scientific notation using your calculator. We don't have to multiply this all out. We can use, on this calculator, it's the EE button. So you need to look for an EE button. You might have an EXP button, and they both work the same way. In fact, I think this one has, oh no, that one has an EE button as well. My other calculator has an EE button as well. But you might see an EXP button, but they do work the same way. So here's what I do to put in scientific notation on my calculator. 6.25, and then instead of writing times 10 to the, I do the EE button, and it writes a little e for me, and then I just put in the exponent, just like that. And then times, because I need to multiply that one by 4.28, EE 15. Enter. So my calculator says 2.675 times 10 to the 21st is my result. And this is really cool because you don't have to do a lot of work, and you can multiply and divide numbers that are already in scientific notation and get your results already in scientific notation. For this one, I need to divide the two, and so same process. 1.26 EE, and then the exponent, which is 12, divided by 2.38 EE, and the exponent is 7, and then I push enter. This one didn't convert to scientific notation. So it came to 52941.17647. And the reason it didn't give me scientific notation is because there weren't enough values in front of the decimal place for it to even worry about it. But we can convert it. Okay, so if I have a number in decimal form and I want to convert it to scientific notation, I can just do this science/engineering button, and so I'll just do second degree in mine, and it gives me three options: floating, which is what I was showing, and scientific and engineering. So if I go to scientific and then push enter, it's going to convert it for me. So it did convert to 5.294117647 times 10 to the fourth. And if I want to convert back, or I want to stop showing in scientific, I just go back there and convert it back to float, and it'll show me floating point numbers again. If you're being told to write your answer in scientific notation, then you need to know how to do that. Or you can do it by hand. It's easy enough. You just look where your decimal place is and say, well, I really want it there right after the 5. That means I have to move 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the left. And because I have a large number, it's a positive 4 on the exponent. That's all. And I'm going to show it real quick on this calculator. 1.26. And for this calculator, my E button doesn't need a second, but then it shows it not as nicely. So I have to put the 12 in, and then divided by 2.38 EE7 equals, and it gives me my result. And here above the 5, you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it says scientific. So I'll do second scientific, and it converted it for me, 5.29411, etc., times 10 to the fourth. Okay. So that'll give you an idea. On a couple calculators, yours might be a little different, but at least you know kind of what to look for now.